yes, you got it. That's it. You duplicated it. That's right. You're doing it right. You see? Then you can go on to do something original. That's what spontaneous really means. It's original. It's creative. It's personal. It's something only you could do. Something only you could think of or conceive because of your individual understanding of the science of devotional service. And because you already know all the rules and regulations, you see, at that point you can do something new. You can maybe bend some of the rules and do things in a different way, and it's all right. It still pleases Krishna. But a person who doesn't have those qualifications can't get away with that. They could never do that. They would fall down. And we see this has happened many times. Somebody will think that, I'm a great devotee, I can do whatever I want. Next thing you know, they're working in a used car lot. What happened? Well, they didn't know the rules. And so instead of doing something nice that pleased Krishna, they did something that displeased Krishna. And, the next thing they're in the clutches of Maya. That's what happens.
Married sannyasi and all that.
Yeah, ex-sannyasi. Retired sannyasi. So we want to avoid that. And the way to avoid that is by becoming expert. Means practicing those rules and regulations for long enough that they become completely internalized, completely second nature. No more questions?
I have questions.
Okay.
In the early part of the reading, you were briefly talking about the absolute nature of devotional service, that it is the process and the result itself. And something kind of clicked in my head, because I've heard this said so many times, and it finally struck me like what that means in terms of absolute. That there's no duality, there's no separation between the action and the result. And I was wondering, what about something in a non-devotional context, like say a musician makes music for the sake of making music, he enjoys making music. Is that also similarly on the absolute platform or not?
No, because it has no connection with Krishna. If he's just making music to make noise, well, what value is that? Art for art's sake, It's so fatuous. It's so solipsistic,
What is solipsistic?
I knew I'd get a question out of him sooner or later. Solipsistic means self-referential. I, me, and mine. The whole 1980s.
Look what I did.
Yeah. That an artist does things like in reference to their own creativity or their own mood. But a devotee may do the same thing, but in relation to Krishna. That's what makes it absolute. See? Just like Krishna tells Lord Brahma in the Chatur Shloki, that energy in relation to me is reality. And if it appears to have no relation to me, it's illusion. It's a reflection in the darkness. So everybody wants to imitate Krishna. Everybody wants to be a great musician, big rock star, a great lover, or a great king, or something like that. But actually only Krishna can do those things. We're just like third, fourth class imitations. We're not even like the demigods. I mean, the demigods are actually authorized to be the controllers and stuff like that. We're not even authorized. We're all servants. So what do we do in imitating Krishna? It's totally bogus. Okay? So that's it?
There's a question from Bruce, but
Bruce.
seems incomplete.
Bruce, where have you been? What does he say?
Well, I guess you'll get the question.
It says, in one's execution of devotional service, there seems to be a natural
naturally propensity to service Krishna, and in so doing one is able to find the soul's true self. My question is, why do Gaudiya tradition seems to assert that Vaishnava or Gopa, Gopi Manjari can this pre? That's it.
Oh.
Oh,
Well, Gaudiyas, there's different levels or different kinds of Gaudiya. Generally, the Vrindavan Babajis, they get into this Manjari Bhava. That doesn't mean that everybody is a Manjari automatically. This is why, again, we talked about this some time ago about Siddha Pranali. This is why we don't give Siddha Pranali initiation, which is telling the disciple what is their eternal identity. We don't give that, because what generally happens is that there's a lot of pressure to give some really high identity. Oh, you're a gopi, you're a manjari, you're a servant of Radharani, you're a great devotee in the spiritual world. Oh, how wonderful. And then the disciple gets all puffed up and they go off on, thinking they're much, much greater and more significant than they really are. And the false ego comes back in and the whole thing gets very icky. So we don't do that. Because we want each devotee to establish this realization for themselves. But we don't accept the Vaishnavas who claim that everybody's a gopi. That's very, very close to being a sahajya. The sahajya is when a person mistakes their physical activities for spiritual activities. And then, they start wearing dresses and calling each other gopi names. And, oh boy, we don't want to go there. So, we don't accept this, that everybody is a manjari or a servant of the gopis. If you happen to be, if that is your actual eternal identity, that will be revealed at the time of self-realization. But it's not necessarily. You could be a tree in Vrindavan, or you could be a Vaikunthavadi. I'll tell you something confidential. Srila Prabhupada had a system of naming his disciples according to their eternal identity, according to the nature of their realization. See? The ones who were in Santaras, he named with Ananda. See?
At the end.
Uh-huh.
Just in case Ananda's Varden freaks out again.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. Shantarasa. Generally speaking, Prahlad, for example, is considered to be in Shantarasa. So there are some great devotees in Shantarasa. And devotees who were going to Vaikuntha, he named with names that came from Viṣṇusahasranāma. See? So he had a system like that. His sister told me this. And so it was kind of like a secret way of knowing who was who by the names that he gave the devotee. So we can understand that which general level of pastimes or which class of devotees that they're from by the name. The spiritual master knows. But it's something that each devotee actually has to realize for himself or herself. It's not something that somebody else can tell you and it will stick, And like I said, there's all kinds of social pressure to, give some really great, important sounding name. So we don't like to do that. So I don't know where that question stands after that explanation. I don't know if it's really a valid question. Because to assume that everybody in the Gaudiya Sampradaya is a Manjari is not valid in our view. Certainly Srila Prabhupada didn't think like that. Or he wouldn't have named his devotees like Brahmananda. Any more questions? No more? This is pretty high, like it's A or something.